Over 1,000 leaders from business, politics and civil society are expected to attend the three-day World Economic Conference for Africa in Cape Town, South Africa. We'll be live from the conference venue with the latest. This is Global Business. Hello and thank you for joining us. I am Penina Karibe. We're bringing you up to speed with the latest developments on the business front. There's plenty coming up tonight, including this. Somalia yet unable to develop its potentially massive oil reserves. We tell you why. And while the world's richest may be self-employed, young Ugandans will not give the informal sector a second look. The 25th World Economic Forum on Africa opened Wednesday in Cape Town, South Africa. This year's forum is themed Then and Now, Reimagining Africa's Future. Organizers say the meeting is the largest ever to be held on the African continent, and the record levels of participation are believed to reflect optimism in the economic prospects of the continent. South African President Jacob Zuma paid an impromptu visit to the venue on Wednesday afternoon for a briefing session with some of his ministers. He is expected to address and host an official welcome dinner for the delegates on Thursday. Participants will be analyzing progress over the last 25 years, as well as trying to shape the continent's future. Now, technology can and does make a difference, and mobile applications can be used for the greater good. How about a mobile rewards platform for social volunteers, something that enables users to volunteer at charities or within communities in return for redeemable points? Two entrepreneurs are making waves with their app, as Angela Kopler found out.
The app awards gems for signed-up volunteers who want and do make a difference.
So we're actually the service provider, and what we do is we have contracts with partners all over Johannesburg. These are things ranging from soup kitchens to orphanages to community initiatives.
The GEM project is quite a good initiative because it gets people to participate in, doing some good work in their own communities instead of just sitting at home. At least they get these gems as a reward and they can get something nice out of it.
Late in May, the founders coordinated a community cleanup in Greenside, an upmarket Johannesburg suburb. 90 volunteers turned up and got involved in everything from graffiti cleaning to weeding.
At the end of the event, they all earned 100 gems, and with those gems they were able to buy data, airtime, electricity, and also redeem their gems at an outlet called Happy Me.
There is a hard-nosed business case behind this initiative.
Gems were in fact sponsored by the local businesses, who of course the whole process benefits because they're getting more foot traffic to come through, but it also makes them look good in front of the community.
Startups are always a tough thing to get involved in as entrepreneurs, and a startup that's in the NGO or not-for-profit environment is even tougher because you can't talk business models, you actually have to talk sustainability. I'm Angelo Coppola for CCTV in Greenside, Johannesburg.
So, what do African governments have to do to ensure that these connections are affordable to the masses and are of dependable quality? Is Mortimer Hope, Africa Director at GSM Association.
There are a number of factors. One is that the networks have not been rolled out in those rural communities, mainly because of affordability issues. Then we have the issue of the affordability of devices. So there's access, availability of the network, and then there's affordability of the devices and services. Government can assist by providing subsidies to ensure networks are rolled out in the underserviced communities. They can also remove or reduce taxation on the devices and on the service to make it more affordable for people. Well, the mobile internet is mobile in Africa. We do not have the fixed line infrastructure as other parts of the world do. So most people in Africa will experience the internet on a mobile device. So we need to ensure that that experience is good. So we need enough spectrum to provide high-speed data, and that spectrum needs to be identified and allocated.
Now, CCTV's Beatrice Marshall joins us from Cape Town, the event's venue. Beatrice, first day at the World Economic Forum. What have been the discussions so far?
Well, indeed, Penina, welcome to Cape Town, where the World Economic Forum on Africa is currently taking place. It is the 25th meeting of the World Economic Forum on Africa now taking place here in Cape Town. economic growth, financing Africa's infrastructure, powering Africa's energy sectors. Those are just some of the issues that will be on the agenda here at the World Economic Forum. And as you've just heard from Angelo Coppola's package there, the question of technology and how it can be harnessed to transform Africa's economies is also part of the discussions here at the World Economic Forum on Africa. Now, let's expand that discussion just a little bit here, and I'm joined by Sneha Shah. She's the Africa Managing Director at Thomson Reuters. Thank you very much and welcome to Global Base Africa here. Now, global mobile penetration in Africa is said to be at something like 40%, but it is projected that 500 million people will have mobile telephonies or will have that penetration by 2020. Is that enough?
Well, there's so much room for growth in Africa. You look at the numbers in terms of the youth on the continent. 40% of the population of Africa are under the age of 14, and they're very savvy with technology. And so if you think about what's going to happen with technology and how it's going to explode, I think we're going to be really surprised by the pace of which we see development and innovation in this space.
How are African economies, though, taking advantage of that huge growth in mobile penetration on the continent?
So you're seeing a lot of economies really seeing, I guess, mobile development move away from just people talking to each other. You're seeing purchasing happening. You've seen M-Pesa in Kenya being a fantastic success. You're seeing now that with the banking license and the mobile banking license that Equity Bank's got, there's a really interesting approach in terms of the banking-led model and where that's going to take us. You're seeing with Ushahidi some of the innovations that are being done in the space around how do we have access to data in ways that we've never had before. And even global companies like Uber coming to Africa has freed up transport in a way that we've never imagined. And so I think it's coming at us in every direction and in ways we've never actually thought about.
We are talking about M-Pesa here and other aspects of economic growth being, through that mobile M-Pesa situation. But in terms of job creation, though, as well for Africa's youth, is that happening?
So it has to happen. There's so many startups focused around mobile innovation. There's so much focus on education. Again, going back to that number of how many youth are going to come into the system, if we don't do anything about this, this is going to be a huge risk for the continent, but also for the world, because if you have that many people coming into the workplace that don't have jobs, that can't create jobs, that's going to be an issue. And so I think what I love is all of these innovation hubs that are being created across the continent, from Cape Town to Ghana to Nairobi, are helping to spur entrepreneurship amongst the youth around app development, around mobile hacking, around creating new ways to visualize content. And so we're very excited at Thomson Reuters about the potential that mobile has for the continent.
But cost is still quite clearly an issue here, particularly for rural Africa. Can a balance, though, be created here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that as innovation happens, as competition happens, the costs naturally come down. And so we'll see that happen more and more. And with any technology, the first version is always expensive, and the more you sort of innovate and you develop it, it always reduces in cost. I think we can always do more to accelerate that in partnership with regulators, with telcos, with banks, and with information providers like Thomson Reuters. We can work together to try and bring down the cost, but I think it naturally will happen as competition enters the market.
What remain, though, are some of the challenges, though, for the consumer, for the regulator, for governments as well?
I think part of it's going to be how do you make sure that you've regulated this new platform, right? It's something that you can actually do a lot with, and how do you make sure that the regulations around, knowing your customer when you're sort of dealing on a mobile platform, knowing who's transacting, knowing their security, those are all important challenges. But it's not challenges that we haven't faced in other platforms, and so it's just we have to focus on it, and together we'll find the right solutions.
All right, where do you see, though, the future?
I think the future is very bright for Africa's youth and for mobile. I think when I start looking at, we don't have legacy infrastructure to sort of, I guess, transition through. We can move directly from nothing to mobile. And you've seen that in the success of things like M-Pesa, in the success of programs like World Reader, which is bringing literacy to youth across Africa through the mobile phone. And we can do so much more. And so I think the future is incredibly bright, and I'm very, very optimistic.
All right, Sneha Shah, Managing Director, Africa, Thomson Reuters, thank you very much for joining us on Global Bees Africa. Well, Penina will be following all the development here for you, and the discussions, of course, go on through to Friday this week, and more from us from Cape Town tomorrow. Back to you.
Beatrice, thanks very much. We're indeed looking forward to that, Beatrice Marshall live for us in Cape Town. Now, Somalia's bid to develop its untapped oil reserves is hitting obstacles. The government hopes the prospective industry will generate millions of dollars in revenue for the nation's beleaguered economy. But as Mohammed Hirmoge reports, legal, commercial and maritime border issues threaten to stall the sector's development.
Somalia could make only 10% of proceeds from its oil prospects if a proposal by Soma Oil and Gas, a British oil company, sails through. But Somalia's Ministry of Petroleum says the federal government has not signed any production sharing agreement with any international oil company.
That information is not true. They say 90% of Somalia's oil prospects may go to Soma Oil and Gas, when actually Soma Oil was given less than 7% of the offshore to find prospects.
Somalia is believed to have a huge potential in untapped oil, could be as much as 110 billion barrels. Soma Oil and Gas, which has completed an onshore and offshore seismic survey, says the results are encouraging and is even believed to have drafted a production sharing agreement.
They want something, we want a different thing. Not only Soma Oil and Gas, but each company that comes to Somalia has the right to propose what they want. And the Somali government has the right to state what deal it wants. Then negotiations should follow. If we agree, fine. If not, then that's it.
Soma Oil and Gas had signed an agreement to undertake seismic surveys for both onshore and offshore oil exploration in August of 2013.
That agreement is, I hope, just the beginning, just the first step of a strong and constructive and fruitful partnership between Soma and the government of Somalia, and I very much look forward to our working together over the months and years to come.
Following the feasibility, Soma Oil and Gas Company will then prepare an evaluation of Somalia's petroleum potential. But the company hasn't shared the seismic data findings yet.
We don't have the data yet. They haven't forwarded the data to us, and that's why we can't negotiate. You can't negotiate on something when you don't have the correct info.
At stake is the fate of potentially lucrative oil and gas reserves off Somali waters and legal claims to sell rights for exploration. Somalia faces a number of issues regarding its offshore oil exploration, one of them a maritime border dispute with neighboring Kenya. Mogadishu even took its case to the UN's International Court of Arbitration last September, a case that's still pending. Yet another issue is the jurisdiction of oil concessions between the central government and the semi-autonomous regions. It might just be a long time before Somalia enjoys revenue from oil proceeds. Mohammed Hirmoge, CCTV, Mogadishu.
Let's turn to the markets now, and all the major bourses that we track here on Global Business dipped except the AGX 30, which gained by 0.2% to close at 51,890.55. Coming up, Equatorial Congo Airlines to begin flying to the Lebanese capital of Beirut. And Egypt looks to the sun to power its future.
Effects of the austerity measures are evident and were expected. Egyptians, however, seem to be patient about it. But El-Sisi told government he wants to control the prices promptly before people's patience runs out.
Watching Global Business, welcome back. Republic of Congo's national carrier Equatorial Congo Airlines will begin flying to the Lebanese capital of Beirut as part of ongoing expansion plans. The airline will be flying between Congo's capital Brazzaville and Beirut twice a week as it aims to gain further market share in the Middle Eastern market. There are also plans underway to extend the regional network to Abidjan, Yaoundé, Bangui and N'Djamena, as well as further in Europe. Equatorial Congo Airlines, which was created in 2011, already flies to Paris and Dubai. The company says the new route aims to cut down flight and transit times.
Before, when we traveled, we took either Ethiopian or Air France. We had stopovers everywhere. This time, there are no stopovers, which is very good.
It is a great pleasure because to get to Beirut before, we had to transit through other cities and take flights from other companies. Today, I'm proud to take the national company for a direct trip.
Our goal is to develop a hub in Brazzaville that is an interconnecting airport which allows African passengers to arrive in Brazzaville in record time, connect to their final destinations towards Central Africa, West Africa, the Middle East, Dubai, Beirut or even Paris.
Egypt is planning to move away from its reliance on fossil fuels and has its sights firmly set on solar power. Currently, oil and gas provide 90% of the nation's energy needs, but the North African country, with its ideal dry and sunny climate, is a raft of new renewable energy projects in the pipeline.
As the sun beats down on the Egyptian pyramids, it's hoped in the future more of this abundant natural resource will be turned into solar energy. Only 1% of the country's energy needs are powered by renewable energy, with Egypt relying heavily on gas and oil fuel. But that's changing, with the government embarking on a raft of initiatives to boost renewable energy generation, including plans for large new solar and wind power plants, as well as a feed-in tariff system to encourage private investment. Dubai-based company Access Power has already announced it signed a deal with the government to build a 65-megawatt solar power plant and is in talks for a wind power scheme. This week, industry representatives and officials gathered at an event in Cairo celebrating the Swiss solar plane Solar Impulse 2 as it travels around the world using only solar energy. The event also shining a spotlight on Egypt's moves towards renewable energy.
In the solar projects, we have about 80 megawatt, 20 megawatt each in different areas in Egypt. Those projects were financed in cooperation with international financial institutions.
It's hoped Egypt can use the plane's technology as an inspiration to develop further green projects to power its economy.
An idea born in Switzerland, an idea that combines innovation, environmental protection, and the spirit of pioneering and exploring. Solar Impulse is a Swiss airplane that is currently flying around the world powered only by the sun, with no fuel or polluting emissions. Solar Impulse is a powerful symbol of innovation, an indication that what we can achieve when we believe in the impossible, an inspiration to put technical innovation at the heart of economic development.
Renewable energy will be a critical component if Egypt is to secure its future energy needs. The nation suffered under persistent power outages last year. Andrew Thompson, CCTV.
And still in Egypt, residents are heading to the markets to stock up on essentials and traditional foods in preparation for the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. But this year, shoppers are being forced to pay higher prices due to inflation caused by the falling local currency. The increased prices are dampening customer demand and in turn worrying store owners.
At this time of year, these markets in the Egyptian capital Cairo are usually bustling with busy shoppers. With Ramadan starting later this month in many parts of the Muslim world, food for the fasting period is piling up. But the market is quiet this year, and some of the visitors, shocked by the high prices due to inflation, are unwilling to buy the traditional Ramadan treats.
Prices are so expensive. The processed apricot wrap is around 35 to 45 pounds per wrap. The hazelnuts cost 160 pounds per kilogram, but we still buy some to use in Ramadan.
That means grocers and supermarkets are all competing on price to lure in customers.
Most basic products are at a moderate price. A sugar pack costs 4.75 pounds, a wheat pack costs 3.75 pounds, rice packs vary from 3.5 to 4.5 pounds, and we have all oil and margarine products. Also, we have the meat products, whether they're fresh, frozen or processed.
Ramadan in Egypt is not complete without colorful lanterns on display in almost every house and street across the country.
This year we are selling Egyptian-made lanterns that are lit with a candle. It's better than the imported ones. These Egyptian lanterns make you feel the atmosphere of Ramadan. Now there are new trends of Egyptian lanterns alongside the tin lanterns. There are also the copper-made lanterns and the wooden ones. All these are handmade Egyptian lanterns.
Handmade copper and wooden varieties have been introduced on sale alongside the cheap lanterns made of tin. Ramadan will begin on the 17th of this month and end exactly 1 month later. Mahia Mutua, CCTV.
Let's turn our attention to commodity prices. In gold eased on Wednesday as shares rose after U.S. data showed its private sector added more jobs than expected in May, and prospects increased of a debt deal for Greece. Gold had risen 0.4% in the previous session, only partly benefiting from 1.5% fall in the dollar and weak U.S. factory data, which would typically trigger flight to safety bids. Analysts say higher European bond yields capped the upside for gold. Still ahead, the world's richest may be self-employed, but is the Ugandan government to blame for not making the informal sector lucrative? We'll find out. Economists are urging the Ugandan government to create incentives for young people to work in the informal job sector and help address the nation's high unemployment rate. While there is no shortage of young, educated Ugandans, there is a dearth of professional jobs for them to go into. As CCTV's Isabel Nakiria reports, many young job seekers are aspiring informal job opportunities intent on waiting for a white-collar job.
For years now, he has gotten his hands dirty at his father's garage in Kampala. Michael Waswa is fixing cars during his free time as a software engineering student at the university. He says the skills he has acquired in this informal work will prepare him for the job market when he graduates.
You have to have a goal. Like when I have a goal of coming up with a workshop that can work on all those electrical cars. Because cars, they also have systems. So I didn't want to either work in the bank, but I'm flexible. I can work in the bank.
More than 70% of Uganda's population are young people below the age of 35, and the majority are unemployed. Yet many educated young people would prefer not to get their hands greasy like Michael. With the number of Uganda's labor force growing at about 4% annually, economists warn the number of the jobless will rise in the years to come. Economists say the informal sector can greatly contribute to a reduction in unemployment rates.
We should change the gears and now say, how do we now get more people to go and start enterprises that deliver solutions as opposed to creating individuals still seeking to go and work in a supermarket, work in a fuel station, work in a restaurant. The places are full.
Uganda's informal sector produces about 12% of the national income, the lowest among sub-Saharan nations. Experts worry little attention is being paid to the role of the informal sector in fostering growth and job creation.
How do we generate programs that make young people to believe in themselves and seek to apply their energy in creating micro enterprises. And then our role would be to say, you have started, you have got the right attitude, let's now arrange microcredit facilities that will make you to grow and move on.
However, the informal sector also faces another challenge as the government looks to increase domestic taxes. Experts believe if the government instead offers tax incentives, it would attract more young people to work in the informal sector. Isabel Nakiria, CCTV, Kampala.
Let's look at the currencies now. And Kenya's shilling farmed as hard currency inflows outweighed dollar demand on Wednesday. At the close of trade today, commercial banks quoted the shilling at 96.70, 96.80, and that's compared with Tuesday's close of 96.80, 96.90. Now, traders said there was light dollar demand while non-governmental organizations had sold greenbacks. The shilling has been weighed down by a stronger dollar, low foreign exchange revenues due to a slump in tourism, and a ballooning current account deficit driven by demand for imports like capital goods during the first half of this year. Now, on Global Business tomorrow, the World Economic Forum for Africa continues in Cape Town, South Africa. We'll, of course, have the latest from there. We'll also be taking you again to South Africa's, that's the biggest wine and oyster festival. And that's it for this edition of Global Business. Remember, you can send your feedback to globalbusinessafrica@cctv.com. You can visit our Facebook page, CCTV Africa, and you can also stay in touch with Global Business on Twitter using the handle @CCTV News Africa. I am Penny Nakaribe. Thanks for watching.